One of the most frustrating things that teachers deal with is student misbehavior. And there's a big disconnect with this that I want to talk about, which is each of us looks at situations and behavior through our own lens. How were we raised? How do we raise our own children? How do we treat people in the social circles in which we operate and in which we deal with? And a lot of times there's a disconnect because the students who are misbehaving may not even know that they're doing wrong. I remember I was coaching a basketball game and I had a student actually punch another student on the court. And I remember when I pulled her aside and I said, "Why did you do that?" She told me her mother taught her that if someone hits you, you hit them harder and put it down, put that person down. And I looked at her and said, "Well, on this team, that earns you a spot on the bench. And the second time it happens, it earns you a spot off the team and you turn your jersey in." So it was an opportunity for me to implement the teachable moment, but that really put things in perspective because that's not how I was raised. But that is how she was raised, is that if someone punches you, you punch them harder and put them down. So that really opened my eyes to how differently some people are raised in the cultures. So it's an opportunity for us to model the way that students should act and be treated. We need to give them respect if we want to earn it in return. I always tell my students that in order to get respect, you have to give it, and that goes from me as well. So keep in mind that when you're dealing with students, that they may have an entirely different family dynamic and different culture of how they've been raised. And a lot of times that can be traced back generations. So when they enter your classroom, don't assume that they know how to act. At home, they may be back talking parents. They may be yelling at each other. They may be used to being getting hit. There's all sorts of different things that you and I may not be able to relate to at all that may be typical in their household culture. So, what I'm really saying here is that when you have a student who misbehaves, don't initially take it personally. Try to understand where that student is coming from, maybe dig a little deeper. I was fortunate when I had the student who punched the other student in the basketball game to have a good enough relationship with her to pull her aside and say, "What was your thought process?" Obviously, when you have 15 kids on a basketball team and you're spending 2 or 3 hours a day in the gym, you get to know them really well. Classroom is not as conducive to that type of a relationship, but those students who are really misbehaving, get to know them better, dig a little deeper, see if you can find out what's going on and correct it. And I think that you'll find in a number of cases, and you hear this from teachers all the time, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That is true in a lot of cases, and that's an opportunity for you to model the way things need to occur so that that person can function correctly in society. I've had students who've had parents in prison. Obviously, those particular students deal with a different culture. They may not see their parents until bedtime. The parent may be working two jobs, and you might be the only adult that has an impact on this person's life. Keep all of these things in the back of your mind that it's not fair that it falls to you, but a lot of times, a lot of this parenting does fall to us as a teacher and as a school system. And again, it may not be fair. It may not be how things are supposed to be. We're supposed to be teaching them grammar and science and other things like that. But in order to function effectively in society, we have to, and many times, teach them how to behave, establish norms so that they can function in society. Well, thank you for listening to me. Have a great school year. If you're a teacher, keep being a hero. Be the heroes that you are. And again, have a great year. Thanks.